All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? I'm doing great today. Nice little Sunday evening. Let's get ready to talk about hockey. So, if there's any new viewers to my channel, and more specifically to this podcast, the Habsnation podcast, well, what is it? Well, obviously, we're going to talk about the Canadiens, sure. But what my goal was when making this podcast was I want to include everyone's take. I want to hear what the fan has to say. Like, I'm a fan myself. You're going to hear my opinion. I don't want this to be anything like TSN, which is overproduced, over-segmented, quite frankly, bullshit. I really want it to be frank. And we're just going to lay down, get yourself some soda, get yourself some beer, get yourselves a little bit of popcorn. We're going to lay down and talk about the Montreal Canadiens. And for today's show, we got a loaded show. Now, I wanted to start talking about the prospects. But before I jump into that, I was going on Facebook like I usually do, and I'm going through the Montreal Canadiens page, and they post a video. I'm going to switch it over to here. Boom. They post a video. It stars Price and Weber. The segment is called The Chat. CH is capitalized. Get it? CH. Now, if I were to tell you, before we get into this video, because it's really a thing of beauty, if I were to tell you who are the two people on the Canadiens that they're the most boring people, they're the most dry people. I'm not talking about their game. I'm not talking about them as a player. I'm just saying their attitudes when we hear them in interviews. Shea Weber's a pretty shy guy. I can tell. He doesn't like talking. Carey Price, I can tell he doesn't like talking. They both kind of have that monotone speech to them. So, right off the bat, I'm looking at the start of this, and I see Shea Weber and Carey Price, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, this is going to be great. And we're going to listen to it here. Let me just make sure my volume is on. We're going to listen to it together because I thought it was hilarious. It's two people who obviously don't want to be there, and they're answering some dumb Christmas questions. Let's listen to it.
Hi, this is Shea Weber. I'm here with Carey Price, and we're here for a special edition of the Holiday Chat.
Would you invite me to your family's Christmas dinner?
Yes, I think that's normal.
I'm having it at my house too this year.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait.
Would you invite me to your Christmas dinner? Yes, I think that will be normal, Carey.
Which of us is naughty and which of us is nice?
You're naughty and I'm nice.
Oh, I don't believe that.
The
What
Christmas
should my
music
New Year's
makes it worse.
resolution be? Grow a beard?
Yeah, I think you need a beard.
All right, that's enough of that. Jeez. Just the two people who they must hate these things. It's obviously in their contract, and they had no choice to do it. But that's just a little something I thought I'd open the show with. Now, why don't we get into the nitty gritty? I wanted to talk about something specific. I wanted to talk about the Canadiens prospect. I don't really follow the prospects as the NHL as a whole. But when I look at the Montreal Canadiens more specifically, I make sure to follow them really carefully. Whether it be the ones in Sweden, I'm looking at you, Mr. Matthias Norlinder. Whether it be the ones in college, I'm looking at you, Mr. Cole Caulfield. Whoever it may be. I kind of want to stay on top of the Montreal Canadiens prospect. It's just because I'm a Canadiens fan. I like doing it. It's my pastime. Now, when I look at the pool as a whole, first of all, let's define prospects. What is a prospect? Okay, what consists of a prospect? There's no dictionary definition. Some might say is people that are not yet with the team. Some people, my definition of prospects is players under the age of 23. I think that players under the age of 23, they still have to grow into their overall potential. They still have a lot of growth and learning to do. So for me, the definition has always been someone under the age of 23. For example, Kotkaniemi, he's already in his second year. He's still a prospect for me. Yeah, I don't view him as a sophomore. I don't view him as a veteran. He's a prospect. Okay, we get the definition out of the way. So it got to me thinking, looking at the prospect pool as a whole, who is the Canadiens' most important prospect? I had one answer in my head. I looked at this guy play whether it be on the Canadiens, whether he'd be in college, or wherever he may be. I don't want to give the surprise away. I'm looking at this person play. I am thinking to myself, there is no other prospect that is as important to the Canadiens than this one player. Now, let's differentiate between importance and the best. Okay, there's a difference between saying this guy's the best and this guy's the most important. I'll give you an example. Suzuki, for me, he may be the best or the second best. But is he important? He's a smallish center, playmaker, forward person. We kind of have a lot of those on the Canadiens. We have a lot of those smallish forwards that can play make. So, for me, while I think that Suzuki is possibly the best prospect, for me, he's not the most important. The most important for me is the prospect. He's addressing a pressing need, okay? We don't have much like him on the team, if any. And when I came all down to that, okay, I had one player in mind. This player is the most important prospect for the Canadiens. Who am I talking about? Joe, who am I talking about? Cale Fleury. The answer might surprise many because you have a team, their prospect pool consists of Cole Caulfield, their prospect pool consists of Suzuki, Paling, some people might even throw in Kotkaniemi. Why do I think that Fleury is so important? Why do I think he's so important? Easy. He addresses a need that they don't have. Physicality. Too many games this season. Too many games the Canadiens got pushed around. Now, when I see the Canadiens get pushed around, I'm just looking to the TV. I'm saying to myself, we need a savior. We need someone who won't get bullied. We need someone who's going to stick up for their teammates while the others don't. We just need someone. No one on the team does it except Fleury. Maybe a little bit of Shea Weber. Maybe a little bit here and there of the other players. Fleury consistently hits to hurt. There are too many games this season where the Canadiens got bullied. Fleury is a bully. He can reply to those the other teams bullying the Canadiens. He can come back. I'll give you guys an example. Kotkaniemi. He gets crushed. He cartwheels. He lands on his neck. Okay? I'm thinking to myself, and I texted my dad, I said, if the Canadiens don't reply in any way, if they don't reply, I'm going to be disappointed. That's going to show that they lack character. Now, Domi came to him and to Zadorov, and they said sweet nothing. You might be wondering, you guys out there, Joe and whoever else is listening, you might be wondering, who on the Canadiens is 6'4", 250 pounds that can go up with Zadorov? Now, I'm not necessarily asking to go after Zadorov. Not many people in the league can do it. Certainly no one on the Canadiens. But why not go after Jost? Why not go after their young star, Cale Makar? The reason why you have to go over their young stars is because you have to show as a team that you're not going to be pushed around. This is a quality Stanley Cup winning teams have. The fact that they won't get pushed around. Right after the hit happens, a few minutes later, Calvert's coming down the wing. A defenseman for the Canadiens comes up to him, lays him with a beautiful textbook open ice hit. Who was the defenseman? Cale Fleury. Cale Fleury. He saw that one of his players went down. He came back and he laid a beautiful hit. No other player on the team. I'm not going to say they don't want to do it, because I don't know what's in their heads. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to say they don't want to do it. I'm saying they can't do it. They don't. First of all, some of them are too small. Second of all, the bigger ones, say for example, Armia, that's just not his game. He's not physical. I know he kind of did cross-check Pasternak that one game. It was pretty cool, but other than that, he's not like a bully. I've been saying it over and over again. Having Cale Flair is good. We need more players of this ilk. You guys in the chat, Cordell, nice to see you, buddy. How are you? Cordell. Cale Fleury. We need more players of that ilk. I've been saying forever, we need a Tom Wilson type player. Every Stanley Cup team, they have a Tom Wilson type player. Now, while I'm thinking this and while I'm preparing today's show, there's a game that underwent between the Kings and the Calgary Flames. And during that game, something happened, something that was eerily similar to what happened between the Canadiens and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, we're going to watch the clip together, and I'm going to explain it as we go along. Okay, so it's the Calgary Flames versus the Los Angeles Kings. And before I play the video, let me just preface it. So the puck goes in the corners near the boards. The Calgary Flames, Zach Ronaldo, he just levels this young player on the Los Angeles Kings. Actually, I don't know if he's young, but it doesn't really matter. He levels this player. He goes down. He's on his knees. He can't get up. It's eerily similar to what happened to Kotkaniemi, but there is a difference, and let's actually watch it. Pay attention to the corner right here. Kaboom!
He is smoked and he is still down. Here's Matt Roy with a blast that goes off the leg, and we're going to get a whistle here.
So he gets hit. He's down. He's on his knees. He can't get up. Again, eerily similar to what happened to Kotkaniemi. Whether or not the hit was clean, that really doesn't matter when you think about it. What matters is that the team, your enemy, I see the team as an opponent. They went after one of your own. Are you going to let them be and let them go after your players without any consequence? Or are you going to stand up? So back to the Calgary situation. This player, he's down and he can't get up. Probably he's going to get a black eye. Look what happens. Kyle Clifford. He sees that. He sees one of his own is down. He decides, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let one of the other teams take a run at my player. And a fight ensues. This happens during the commercial. Now, obviously, the NHL referees suck. He jumped into the fight to split it up, which kind of sucks, but it doesn't matter. The intention was there. The intention was there. Kyle Clifford stood up for his teammate. I know the Los Angeles Kings, they're nowhere this year. They're not a really good team. But those years where they were winning the cup, Kyle Clifford was an important part. Kyle Clifford was defending. It's an eye for an eye. I know some guy once said an eye for an eye and the whole world goes blind. Fuck that pussy. I'm speaking in hockey. We must stick up for our team. Yeah, whatever. You don't have to flip him on his neck like Zadorov did. But just send a message. A little shoulder check here and there. It won't hurt. And that's how you win Stanley Cups. Now, what did I think of the hit itself? I actually made a video. I ended up deleting it because I said something that I misspoke. Actually, I misspoke. What did I think? I'll let you know. But first, let me take some viewer comments. Joe says, speaking of defensemen, what are your thoughts on Josh Brook? Looks like he has struggles in his rookie camp. Has carried into his season in the NHL. It's not looking good at all. Now, Josh Brook, as I'm answering your question, let me just pull up his Hockey DB page because we're actually going to look at his stats to see what is he doing in the HL. So, there you have Josh Brook. Good-looking dude. Baby blue eyes. Second round pick in 2017. Let's keep that in mind, but first let's go to his stats. Right now with the Laval Rocket, in 27 games, he has 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, 22 penalty minutes. Wow, that's actually a lot, 22 penalty minutes. That's almost the penalty every other game. And a sheet of -3. Now, a lot of people, they might say, plus minuses, it's a nothing stat. It doesn't mean anything. I personally disagree. I personally disagree. I value plus minus a lot. If every player on your team, they're a minus, you're not winning a game. You're not winning a game. Anyway, so Josh Brook, he's very offensive-minded, Joe. He has a lot of offense to his game. I know that it's not really showing right now on the stat sheet. But when you're making the jump from junior to the AHL, it's not like that happens. He's going to have a lot of growing pains, this Josh Brook. And he is going through it now. He's going through growing pains. Now, his defensive play, from what I've saw and from what I've heard, it's not great either. Now, a lot of scouts in the NHL and a lot of GMs, when you look at the facets of the defenseman, he has the offense and the defense. They say that people that have the offense and that lack defense, it's easier to teach them the defensive side of everything than if, say, you had the opposite, a defenseman that's great defensively but sucks on offense. It's harder to teach them the offense side. The offense is something that it's kind of in your blood. The defense, you can kind of learn it as you go along, learning to play positionally sound, some great defense. I really hope that, what's his name, Joel Bouchard, he's going to sit down and he's going to show him, review a lot of tape. That's important. And show him how to get his defense a little bit more sound. Joe says, you just got to look at Clifford's headshot. Just looking at his face, you can tell he's a hockey player. Missing teeth, looking tough. Absolutely. The Canadiens need players like that. And I say it all the time. I say, and I think it was one of my topics, do the Canadiens need a goon? Do they need a goon? Now, for me, at least, the definition of a goon, it kind of changed over time. Okay? It's different. A goon, back in the days, it used to be someone, he plays maybe 5 minutes per game, and he goes on the ice, he fights, and his night is over. His sole purpose was to fight. That's what used to be considered a goon back then. By the way, if you listen to interviews with some of those goons, I never knew if that was something that's insulting or not. Anyway, if you listen to interviews with some of those goons, they would say like the night before they can't sleep. They're throwing up. They're so freaking nervous because they know the next day they're probably going to get their teeth bashed in. So anyway, what I was saying, a goon for me, the definition changed. A goon for me is not only someone who can fight, someone who can stick up for his teammates. It's also someone who can keep up with the game, someone who can play hockey. If you look at Tom Wilson in Washington, by the way, I can't stand Tom Wilson. He's one of those players that you hate if he's on the other team, but you love him if he's on your team. Anyway, if you look at Tom Wilson, he's a madman. He has screws loose. When he hits, he doesn't hit to take you out of the play. He hits to take you out of the game, to injure you. Well, if you look at all of those factors, that's not just what he is, Tom Wilson. He can play hockey. He can play hockey. I mean, he plays on the top line more often than not with Ovechkin and Kuznetsov. They wouldn't be putting him there if he couldn't play hockey. Not only does he have the physicality, the fighting skills, he has the play to boot. He's a first-round pick, we forget. I am dying. Say if the Canadiens, they're picking in the 10th to 15th range. They're out of the top three where you get the obvious Lafreniere and all of those guys. If they're picking in the 10th to 15 and even lower than that, I want them to get a bully. I will congratulate them. Last year, Jaden Struble, excellent pick. Excellent pick. Excellent pick. From what I hear from this guy, he is a villain. Pierre Maguire, you guys might know Pierre Maguire. His son, he plays high school. He plays in the same league as Jaden Struble. He plays in the same league, and Pierre Maguire, he says from everything he gathers about this guy, Jaden Struble, he is a bully. He's a villain. Great. The Canadiens need that. Now, you might be saying, why did you say Fleury's the only one that can do it, and if there's Jaden Struble? The reason why I say Fleury's the most important is because Jaden Struble, we drafted him out of high school. it's extremely hard to gauge where a player will end up when you scouted him out of high school. We're not even guaranteed Strubal's going to play an NHL game. I hope to God so, because even at a really early age, that guy has the physical maturity. He looks like he eats concrete for breakfast. He's made out of meat and potatoes. Habsnation podcast, send in your question, guys. Joe says, our right-hand side for a defensive prospect is not looking good right now. Besides Fleury, Brook is struggling. And Jolson, in my opinion, his career is coming to an end. Still having severe migraines. Whew. That's not a good one. That's not good. And you know what? A lot of players in this league, they have their fair share. They have equal opportunity. You play hard. You work hard. Most likely than not, you're going to succeed. Yeah, you need a little bit of skill, but if you have the work ethic and the willingness to get better, you're going to do good in this league. For example, Gallagher doesn't take a shift off. He's the Canadiens' best player. When I look at Juleson, I feel bad for him. Because no matter what his work ethic is, no matter how hard he trains or whatever it may be, the injuries just slowed him down. He was really dealt a bad card. If I'm not mistaken, and take this with a grain of salt because my memory is a little hazy, I don't want to be called a moron or anything, or whatever the term is. When the Canadiens drafted Juleson, remember, it was in 2015. It was actually the McDavid draft. We drafted Juleson, we were in the 20th, maybe like 26th or something. He came out from the Everett Silvertips. He had a history of injuries. The Canadiens are not without blame on this one. I got to admit, the Canadiens are not without blame. Because it might be a situation, hey, he gets injured in junior. It's not going to happen again. He's going to stay healthy. It was a freak incident, yada, yada, yada. Okay. It might be that situation. It might also be, though, he's going to get injured. He got injured in junior. The chances of him getting injured over and over again in the league's upper up, it's higher. And it was the case with Juleson. The same thing happened with Galchenyuk. When the Canadiens drafted Galchenyuk, you may recall, he had a knee injury. It set him aside almost a complete season in Sarnia. That knee injury. By the way it happened, it was a freak incident. Oops, what's happening? Why is there noise? Alright, let me shut this shit. Oh my god. Alright, sorry about that. So I was saying, Galchenyuk. When he had that injury, it took him out the knee. The way it happened, he was skating around the net. He cut it a little too close. He ended up skating knee first into the post. Self-inflicted injury. So he almost didn't play a complete season. The Canadiens drafted him anyway. Now, if you were to ask me, and if you were to ask many people, Galchenyuk hasn't panned out the way they hoped he would. First of all, he hasn't panned out as a centerman. Okay, he's been bouncing left wing, right wing, center. I'm surprised he hasn't played goalie by this point. He hasn't panned out as a centerman, but overall, stats-wise, points-wise, hasn't been doing great either. He wasn't the best in Arizona. I think he only got 40-something points. He isn't the best in Pittsburgh right now. But what's one thing that's been in common? Galchenyuk's been getting injured a lot. Canadiens, next draft, be careful. If you're going to draft someone with an injury history, make sure to see what type of injury it is. Is it a concussion? Is it a knee injury? Is it a toenail injury? It's important because a concussion, if it happens once, there might be sequelae in the future. You might be more likely to get one in the future. I'm not a doctor by any means. I wish I was, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know that for a fact. But it's just logically speaking. Joe says, Pierce reminds me so much of Patches. Not only does he play like him, but he looks a bit like him. The lips, He's got that kind of patch-ready mouth. Pierce. Am I missing someone? I don't actually know who's Pierce. Pierce? Or do you mean Price? Oh, I think you meant Price. Yeah, Price. He's got that patch-ready look. White dude with big eyebrows, hair, black hair. Shazam says, I would call back Paling and leave him till the end of the season. You know what? I think that most fans want that. Now, I'm over there on the Canadiens' Twitter, and I'm over there, and I see that a player was recalled from Laval. I see a player was just recalled from Laval, and I'm thinking, wow, are they finally going to give Paling his shot? Are they going to give him a chance to play? And what do I see? Riley Barber gets recalled. Oh boy. So, is this a bad thing? Yes and no. I kind of feel bad for Paling. Because I'll tell you why. Out of training camp, he was probably assured to have a spot on the team. He was set back because of an injury. Again, similar to the Jolson situation. You do everything right, great work ethic, injury set you back. They send him down to Laval. That wasn't a bad decision because too many people on the roster. I said to myself, Paling, go work in Laval. I know you're disappointed, but if you go work in Laval, show them that you're capable of playing at least at a higher level, then you're going to get called up. And you're probably going to stick with the club. Now, that didn't happen yet. How come? Let's go visit our old Hockey DB page. Let's see what Ryan Paling is getting for stats. There's Paling. Another good-looking guy. 6'2", 204 pounds. He's of NHL caliber. What is he getting for points in Laval? So 25 games played. It's lagging. 25 games played, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points, 6 penalty minutes, and he's a -2. So in Laval, in the AHL, he's on pace for less than a point every 2 games. That's not stellar. For someone you're expecting to succeed in the NHL, the AHL, it's sort of an indication. It's an indication of how well you're going to do in the NHL. When I look at the decision to bring Riley Barber up as opposed to Ryan Paling, it might be a position thing. Because we know Barber plays the wing, Paling plays center. Maybe they don't want to play him on the wing. Okay, fine. But for me, at least, the real reason is that Paling hasn't really proved himself yet at the AHL. He hasn't proved himself yet. So they want him to continue working on his game until he's up to snuff to play in the NHL. I think that this is a great decision. I know it's frustrating as fans. We want him on the team so bad. I know it's frustrating. But it's sort of what needs to be done. This is how you develop champions. This is how you develop great players. I still think this didn't tamper my expectations in any way towards Ryan Paling. I still think he's a top 3 or 4 prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to sound like a broken record now, and please don't shut the video. I wish they would have done the same with Kotkaniemi. I wish they would have done the same. Play him in the AHL. You're not going to get called up unless we see some good stats, unless you have some good play. I sort of wish they did that, but hey, they thought that would be best for him. We'll see. Joe says, no, it's Duncan Pierce. Scroll up before the patch ready comment. LOL. Oh, okay, you're talking about Pierce. You believe we'll draft... Okay, let's take a look at this guy, because I've actually never seen him before. Duncan Pierce. Alright. This guy? Oh, man, I see it. They have the same resting bitch face. He just needs a little darker hair and a little bigger eyebrows. Oh my god, he does look like Pacioretty. Same nose, same everything. What does he play? Defense? Oh, man. Again, we're talking about drafts and whatever. Let's not forget, the way the Atlantic looks this year, it's the worst division in hockey. the Canadiens might squeeze through. They might squeeze through. Now, if they're not going to make the playoffs, if I had a crystal ball, say it's my hockey light right here. If this is a crystal ball and I'm rubbing it and the crystal ball tells me whether or not the Canadiens make the playoffs. If I learned they're not making the playoffs, I want them to tank. I want them to tank hardcore. That was also one of my talking points. And it was a great segue. But before I get into that, let's read some more comments. Paul Gee is in the chat. Nice to see you, chicken boy. He says Suzuki did nothing his first couple of games. Then he got better. Poehling did nothing in his 4 games this year. They sent him down. Suzuki is a better player, but they did not give him a shot. Or I think you meant Poehling is a better player and they did not give him a shot. Yeah, but again, remember, they didn't send him down because they thought he was a worse player. They didn't send him down because of his play. He had an injury. Okay? He couldn't play as many preseason games. Nick Suzuki, while Poehling was out and everything, Nick Suzuki was putting up points on the board and was putting up some great play. They kind of had no choice. And they had to pick a player who can clear waivers. They had to pick someone. The roster was full. They had no choice. For me, this doesn't really tamper my expectations on Poehling. I sort of think it as something they had to do. And remember, guys, there is no such thing as a player playing too much in the AHL. It's all beneficial. It's like if a mother, the guy he's studying, and the mother says, hey, you're reading too much books. There's no such thing as reading too much books. You'll just get smarter. There is no such thing as playing too much in the AHL. You can't over-ripen a player. This isn't fruit. This isn't fresh fruit. You can't over-ripen a player. I think that whatever development Poehling is getting, it's for his best. All I wish, and I can't get in his head, okay? We still don't have that technology. I wish that his mentality, he takes it the right way. Because from the comments I heard, he was a little bit sour that he got sent down. He felt like he worked hard. I want him to keep a positive attitude. An attitude that, hey, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get called up, if not this season, then the next, and I'm going to be the best player. All right. Let's see. Joe says, I like Barber. I think he's got something. He's got the experience. I think it was the right move. There's a lot of players they do good in the AHL. And once they get called up to the NHL, they're not that great. I don't know Barber. I don't know him personally, so I can't comment. But Barber is a great AHL player. I think he was one of the leaders a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. If he can translate, not everything, because he's not going to be the points leader in the NHL. Riley Barber, then Draisaitl and McDavid. No, he's not going to be the points leader. But if he can translate at least like 20% of that productivity to the NHL, it might be a short-term replacement for Byron. That's what I see him as. Smallish forward, has great wheels, can put it in the back of the net. He looks like a short-term replacement for Byron, who's right now struggling with injuries. God damn it, was it a bad idea to fight that guy last year? I know it's kind of old news at this point, but he was kind of never the same player. Would you guys admit in the chat? When he took that punch from Mackenzie Weegar, he just never seemed the same. What a bad decision. That just shows, and I was one of the people saying, I know that you injured him. You paid the price. You got suspended. You sat out games. You paid a monetary value. There is no reason for you to fight him. It's not a question of pride. It's not a question of nothing. Don't fight him. He's out of your weight class. I was looking at some videos where Paul Byron, he actually did quite well in a few fights. Maybe he was a little too overconfident. I don't know. Bad decision. Paulie Byron was never the same player since. I hope that Riley Barber is a short-term replacement. Paul Gee says, I don't want him this year anyway, referring to Ryan Poehling. Jordan Cannell says, Canadiens will make the playoffs. Atlantic is garbage. Tampa Bay, Ottawa are looking bad. Toronto. Maybe they don't need 98 points. don't need the washroom. Yeah, look, and I was getting... Oh, I forgot to finish my thought, by the way. If I know the Canadiens aren't making the playoffs, I want them to tank. If you look at teams like the aforementioned Toronto Maple Leafs, they got the... How do you get Matthews? How do you get Marner? How do you get Nazem Kadri when he was with them? How do you get Morgan Riley? You don't get those type of players by making a push for the playoffs and then barely making it, and you end up being on the bubble, on the outside, and you're drafting 15th. The Canadiens got Cole Caulfield. That was a little bit lucky. I don't know if Cole Caulfield is going to be as great as the players I just named. But if you want good players, if you want a good team, you have to get high draft picks. You have to tank. For me, there's nothing wrong with tanking. People, they say, and I'm positive the Canadiens management, they think like this. They're like, hey, tanking isn't allowed. You have to have pride. Yada, yada, yada. No excuses. You see it right here? No excuses in the corner. No excuses in... Oh, sorry. That corner. Whatever. That corner. There. No excuses. Look, I get that. It's a question of pride. I completely understand it. If you want good players, if you want... And we're not speaking of good, like, I don't know, James Van Riemsdyk is a good player. I'm talking about high-end elite. They don't drop to the 10th rank. They don't drop to the 15th rank. You get them in at least the top 5. In some cases, even the top 2. In some cases, the top 2. If I have a crystal ball and the Canadiens aren't making the playoffs, I want them to tank. That Lafreniere kid, he is something else apparently. I want Lafreniere on my team. Stu John says, I wonder what's going on with Subban. That's true. 5 points in 23 games. Now, I was one of those people, and I know I say a lot of stuff. I get that. It's my job to talk to you guys. A job that I'm not making any money off of, but I don't always say things that end up being true. One thing I will say, though, I will eat my words if I'm wrong. I wasn't a fan of the Subban trade. I thought that Weber would decline faster than Subban. I didn't like the Weber contract. I thought that PK would be a better player and they had a better chance of winning with him. Yada, yada, yada. I could not be more wrong. I could not be more wrong. It seems that against all odds, even though he's about 5 years younger, Subban declined faster than Weber. Maybe it's not a permanent decline. Maybe it's more of he's going through a slump. He's going through a bad year. But holy hell, he is just awful. Against the Predators the other night, your old team, you would think he would have a mark on the stats sheet. You would think he'd have a mark on the notes of the game. He did have a mark on the stats sheet. It was a big old shit stain of a mark because PK Subban in his return to Nashville was a -3. Allegedly. That is not good. And meanwhile, in Montreal, Shea Weber, he's having a Norris. Maybe not Norris, because you're still in the league with John Carlson, Victor Hedman, and Cale Makar. So he probably won't get nominated for the Norris, but goddamn, definitely a top 10 defenseman this year. Not only is his defense great, which is kind of what you expect from Shea Weber, he's been putting in the back of the net. That slap shot, which it seemed like in his first few years with Montreal, I knew he had a great shot. It seemed to never be making its way towards the net. It seemed to always be getting blocked. For some reason this year, it's going to the net. It's making its way through. And when that thing makes its way through, more likely than not, it's going to be in the back of the net. Shea Weber has been great. And from a guy who's constantly criticized Shea Weber, I still don't like that contract. I am willing to say I was wrong about him. I think that it ended up being a good trade. A good trade. Maybe not a great trade, but definitely a good trade. For PK, hey, I love you, buddy. We share the same birthday, May 13th. I really hope you can turn things around. Because there is no reason that someone of your age declines that fast. I really don't think that this is a fluke. We're witnessing the decline of PK Subban. If you don't make the playoffs, might as well finish last, Shazam says. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Speaking of call-ups, do you think Lindgren will be given the chance if/when Primeau, as my buddy Scott calls him, Primeau gets sent back to Laval? Lindgren's one of those guys that play better in the NHL than the AHL. I think he's ready. I will agree with you, but I agree and I disagree, and I'll explain why. I do think that Lindgren does, to some extent, play better in the NHL. More logic. If you're a goalie, it's just more logic you play better in the NHL. You got a better defense. You're playing in front of Shea Weber as opposed to playing with Josh Brook in front of you. It's different. You're playing with better defense. Then again, you're facing shots that are just harder to save. I will agree with you to some extent. Lindgren might be a little bit better in the NHL. But for me, in the AHL, he's dog shit. In the NHL, he's better. He's dog shit with a little bit of salt on it. He's still dog shit in the end of the day. With all due respect, I shouldn't use the word dog shit because the fact that he's playing NHL games whatsoever, it shows that he's such a good player and such a good athlete. I just, when I look at his style of play, he has the combativity. I like that. He's not positionally sound. He kind of swims around in his crease. I really liked what I saw of Primeau. I know that he ended up losing the game. He let in 3 goals, which is not something you really want from your goalie. Okay? But I would like to see him get another chance. I would like to see him play another game where he doesn't have the pregame jitters and everything. Let me tell you something. I remember watching Coach's Corner many, many years ago. There was this young goalie for the Dallas Stars. I believe his name was Hedberg. He played his first game. They played him at home. They played him in Dallas. He had the green jerseys and everything. And he ended up getting owned. Don Cherry said, never play a goalie their first game. Never play their first game at home. Always play them on the road. Because, think about it. Goalie, one of the most, if not the most important position in hockey. They're already stressed enough it's their first game. It's not like if you're a defense or a forward and it's your first game and you're skating on the 4th line. We're not expecting as much as you. Goalie, the limelight is on you. The spotlight is on you. Not only are they nervous from that, but now they're playing in front of their family. They're playing in front of the fans. All of those nerves add up. So, given all of those circumstances, I think Primeau did fairly well, and I would really like to see him get another chance, where he's not at home. He got the nerves and the jitters out the way. I would like to see him how he plays. Again, as I was talking about with Mark from the Puck Bag, goalies, it's really hard to put a gauge on them. It's really hard to put your finger on them. It seems like one year they're playing like Patrick Roy, and then next year they're playing like Jimmy Howard. It's very inconsistent. It's not very fluid. It's very fluid. But that being said, I look at Primeau. No other goalie in the Canadian system, no other goalie prospect have I ever had this feeling about. Remember Zach Fucale? Remember him? He was supposed to be the next big thing. I was sort of always like, meh. I saw him play. He didn't always seem that in control of his net. When I look at Primeau, I think that he's great. I think that he's very positionally sound. Again, only time would tell. For all I know, 5 years from now, he's playing in the ECHL. Again, I don't have a crystal ball or anything, but all of the signs point towards the right direction. I think that he's definitely the predecessor of Carey Price. Or the successor of Carey Price. Whatever the right word is. I suck at words. All right. Next question. I know I'm going a little bit slowly, but I'll still get the questions down. Where was I? Jordan Cannell says, I don't like Lindgren. I like Primeau much better. Why do you like him, Joe? Stu Johnson says, yeah, we need another 5 to 10 pick this draft. This draft is dope. Yeah, that's a good point. I was saying if you want a top player, you probably need to be drafting in the top 3, maybe top 5. Given how great this draft seems to be, from what I hear. I didn't really research it, but given how deep it seems to be, you might get a decent player at 10. Who knows? Who knows? Just, if you're going to miss the playoffs, miss it by a lot. Do what the Buffalo Sabres did. Remember the McDavid draft? The Buffalo Sabres completely blew up their team. They tanked. And it's funny because given the lottery, they ended up picking second, so they missed out on McDavid anyway. The GM wasn't really happy, but still. If you're going to miss it, I say miss it by a lot. I say miss it by a lot. Joe explaining why he likes Lindgren. He says he's played well in the NHL. I think he's a great guy to have as a backup. I like his play and his attitude as well. That's true. That's true. He kind of looks like the singer of 21 Pilots. Canal says, would you pick him over Primo, though? And he says to Stu, so we trade Pricer and Weber? All right. Joe says, for now, speaking about Lindgren still, I would, yes. Personally, I believe Primo should spend his year in the NHL. Next year we'll talk about it, but this year I think Lindgren's time. Now back to Subban. Shazam says Subban is a showman and not a team player. I can't disagree there. I can't disagree there. I mean, arguably, every team that he's been in, maybe apart from the Devils because the year is still pretty young, relatively speaking, it seems like he doesn't always get along with the players. It seems like he's not always a team player, whether it be that he's playing his music too loud or he's just a loud voice. I know that one thing that got on Marc Bergevin's nerves. And again, huge fan of PK Subban. I own 2 of his jerseys and 1 of his t-shirts. And a hat. A big fan of PK. At least when he was in Montreal. At the end of the games, when it's the interviews and the players are wearing a hat, what's on the hat? Montreal Canadiens, Canadiens hockey, Habs, or whatever it may be. They have a Canadiens logo. When Subban, at the end of his press, at the end of the games and he's giving an interview, what does he have on his hat? PK Subban. 76 PK Subban. Some people might say, yeah, it's a hat, who cares? Bada bing, bada boo. I get it. But with PK Subban, for me at least, it always seemed like, hey, this is my brand. My priority is my brand first. And then I'm going to play hockey. Okay? Or he might argue it's the same. They have equal priority. If you want to succeed in this league, though, they can't be the same. Hockey has to go above everything. Apart from maybe your family. For example, Fleury's dad, I think he ended up passing away. He missed a lot of hockey. Family is more important than hockey. But I'll tell you what's not more important than hockey. Making dumb YouTube videos. And dumb like events where you have the cape on and you're, butt fucking the mascot from the Devils. By the way, you know what the Devils mascot is? New Jersey Devil. That's his name. They couldn't have picked a more original name. I'm not making it up. His name is NJ Devil. Anyway, that's what I think of Subban. I think when he was with Montreal, great player. Definitely, I think that play-wise, he was part of the solution, not part of the problem. But you're not going to win if you don't play as a team. Look at Vegas. Vegas, before they got, the year where they made it to the finals, before they got Pacioretty, before they got Stone, before they got all of these guys, they don't have that good a team. They didn't have the big names. Okay, maybe John Marchessault. Maybe. But the reason they went so far, they played as a team. It was one for all and one for all. Or whatever the expression is. They played as a team. I don't think PK would have had that place on his team because he doesn't play as a team. He plays for himself. He wears the 76. Again, and you know what annoys me? I didn't mean for this to become a PK Subban shitting party, but he plays against Montreal. And the Devils, the Canadiens haven't had good luck against the Devils this year. He's playing against Montreal. He gets 0 points, 0 goals. He's like a -1 or 2. He basically didn't do shit. And he's out there after jumping around because he won the game and he's jumping and he's hopping everywhere. Hey, fuck off. You didn't do anything. What are you jumping around about? Oh boy. Canal misses Subban. Let's see. Paul Gee says that's why he played well in Montreal. He's a showman. Maybe. Let's see. Stu Johnson says Markov also covered him a lot. That's true. But by the way, when he used to play with Markov, that was one of the most dominant pairings in the league. Nothing was going past them. Guy says he thrived in MTL because he was a showman. In Nashville/New Jersey, he does not get the attention he wants. I don't know. It might be that. Maybe. I don't know. I would have to get in PK Subban's head. Let's see here. Daniel15, thanks for joining us. He says a lot of talk about the weaknesses on left D, but Ben Sherratt has been effective and consistent. Thank you. It seems that, again, TSN, it seems I'm the only one praising Ben Sherratt. This guy has been a rock on defense. Good looking guy too. Great hair, great face. I'm not gay, by the way, but I can still admit if a guy's good looking. But I think his play has been impeccable. He's playing what? Almost the other day he played almost 30 minutes. And it doesn't even look like he's slowing down. You know what I commend about Ben Sherratt more so than his defense, his ability to block shots, anything? His conditioning. You can't play those big minutes if you don't have great conditioning. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year he'd be making a great pair with Shea Weber, I probably would have thought you're on shrooms. But they've been making a decent pair. I really do. Joe said, lol, Foucault. Dude can barely hold his own in the ECHL. Poor guy. Fellow Quebecer, unfortunately, just never capitalized his opportunity. Now he's with Tampa playing for the ECHL affiliate. Yeah, it sucks. And I remember when he got drafted, Craig Button, he said this is the best goalie I've ever seen at the age of 16 or whatever it was. A lot of people said he's the successor for Carey Price. He's the next big thing. But alas, it's hard to put a gauge on these goalies. It really is. Is there anything I wanted to say? Alright, no. Alright. Jordan says, okay. Joe says, honestly, I think the Sherratt deal was an apology for the Carl Alzner deal. This is what Alzner was supposed to be for us. That's a great point. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when they initially signed Ben Sherratt, that was their big summer splash. They signed Ben Sherratt. When I first saw that, I got like these war flashbacks of Carl Alzner. You know, a guy with PTSD, how like something can trigger a flashback. When I saw them sign Ben Sherratt, it triggered a flashback. I'm saying, oh no. Do we have another Alzner situation? Someone who on their other respective team, they play great hockey, whatever. They come to the Canadiens and they suck? I was wrong. Well, I never said if it was going to be a fact or not. It was more of a worry of mine. But Ben Sherratt's been great. You know that trophy the Canadiens give? Can someone tell me the name of the trophy? It's like the fourth... It's sort of the trophy for the unsung hero. I'm pretty sure Jeff Petrie won it. I think it's called the Fourth Star Trophy. I'm pretty sure Jeff Petrie won it. It's given to someone, a player on the Canadiens, who doesn't always get doesn't always get the attention he deserves. I would give it to Sherratt this year. It's kind of a guy, he flies under the radar, but day in and day out, he does his job, and he does it great. He's been playing great. I think he's going to smash his totals, statistics-wise. Let's see, Ben Sherratt. By the way, why is it Sherratt? There's an I in there. Shiari, whatever. I can't fucking say names, guys. Let me pull out his stats here. Okay. So there you go, Ben Sherratt. Good old Hamilton boy. 6'3", 225 pounds. Big boy. He currently has 10 points in 30 games. 3 goals. His season high for goals is 5. By all means, he's going to shatter that. And also his points. 10 points. He's going to have a season high in points. Now, I'm saying that it doesn't really matter for me whether or not he gets points. That's not his role. I'm just pointing it out. He's been helping in other ways. One for all and all for one. Yeah, I can't speak. Joe says, speaking of the ECHL, N1 C McNiven, my God, what a monster. He's insane. Yeah, maybe. You know what, McNiven, he was also supposed to be a good goalie. But right now, I'd rather see him play a lot of games in the ECHL than be a backup in the AHL. Personally, that's me. Do you think Claude is on borrowed time? Personally, I think that Mark likes him too much. I think that he believes in him too much. And I think that they're both aware that if the Canadiens aren't really performing at this point, it's not really a fault of Claude Julien. It's more so a fault of the GM not putting the right players on the ice. Not to shit on the Canadiens. They're a good team. They have great players. But one thing that bites them in the ass, it's this. They don't have any superstars. They don't have any superstars. I would argue most teams in this league, they have a superstar, even if they're not a good team, per se. Example, New Jersey. They're a bad team. They have Taylor Hall, Hart Trophy winner. I feel like the Canadiens, they're missing. I'm not saying they need Taylor Hall. They just need like one of those top players. I've never seen it in my lifetime watching hockey. The Canadiens, they have a player who's top 10 in the scoring race. Or even top 20. They really need a superstar. And is Claude Julien on borrowed time? I don't think so. Because he's shown if he has superstars on his team, he could do great. Just look at him in Boston. I think that what protects Julien is that he doesn't necessarily have the great players. Now, say the Canadiens, say they had, I don't know, say they had Crosby. He's their first center. And their second center was McDavid. And that's their 1-2 punch. And on the wings, they have Pasternak and Ovechkin. They have all these great players. And then say they're not playing well. Then I would say, okay, fire the coach. It's his fault. But that's not the case currently. So I can't really fault Julien. I don't think that it's a problem in the system. I think it's a problem in just the players don't have the high-end talent. Speaking of the ECHL, oh, sorry, I read that already. Joe says, you know what's funny? The 2013 draft, Drouin and Fucali looked as two of the best of their class. Funny how they both ended up here. That's true. That's true. Joe says Sherratt, CH, and he's playing here for the CH. It's a conspiracy. Dun, dun, dun. Shazam says, Selke Trophy. Selke Trophy given to the best defensive forward. I'll give you my answer for who on the Canadiens deserve it. And I'll start off by giving you who in the NHL I think deserves the Selke. So my answer for who in the NHL I think should deserve the Selke. I would have to think about it. My quick answer is Ryan O'Reilly. He won it last year. He hasn't had a dip in his play. I think he's been great. I think that Bergeron, he's always up there. I think that Barkov is great. I think that this might be Barkov's year. He's playing from... But those are all my candidates. This is my number one answer for my Selke Trophy. And this is going to surprise you. Because he doesn't always get the press. And I'm sure some of you, they're not looking at him as really a defensive forward. Matt Barzal. For me, Matt Barzal is a great two-way player. Maybe since he's playing in New York, we don't hear him as much as, like, you know, we always hear Bergeron and all. For me, I look at the Islanders play and the games I've seen. He's put up some great defense. If you look at his rookie year, he was stellar. He's getting a lot of points. And out with the old, in with the new, Barry Trotz comes in. He says, if you want to play on my team, play a Barry Trotz system. By the way, Jake says that Barry Trotz looks like the Thing from Fantastic Four. Anyway, so Trotz tells him, you want to play in our system? You're not going to cheat anymore. You're not going to get as many points. You're going to play defense. So a lot of people, they see his points drop. They're probably saying, oh, he's getting worse. He's not improving. No, he's getting better. Because his defense has been great. His defense has been great. It's sort of the same situation that it was with Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel Datsyuk, if he wanted, he would be the top one scorer every year he was in the league. He was that talented. He was that offensively gifted. But Mike Babcock, and yes, I call him Babcock. You can't do anything about it. I got criticized because I don't call him Babcock. He's Babcock for me. He said, you're not going to play that if you want to play on the Red Wings. You're going to play defense first. So he doesn't cheat. What happens? His points drop, but overall he's a better player. I think it's sort of the same with Barzal. Joe says that for the Selke, maybe Couturier. I think he's also great. Couturier, that's another name I forgot. You know what? I was thinking about this. Who's the best Quebec player in the league? Because, Quebec used to be a powerhouse, especially for goaltenders. For some reason, Quebec always produced the best goaltenders, whether it be Raw, whether it be Brodeur, whether it be even like a guy like Mark Fleury. In the past years, Quebec has kind of taken a dip, and Ontario's been picking up that slack. I was thinking, who is the best player from Quebec? Without thinking, most of you're probably going to say Bergeron, maybe even Fleury. For me, the best player has always been Couturier. I know it's probably not the most popular response, but I think at this point in time, he's a better player than Bergeron. I would take him before Bergeron. You might disagree with me. Let me know why. Bit off topic, but have you seen Tristan Jarry? My goodness, he's phenomenal, in my opinion. You might think I'm crazy, but I think he will win the Vezina. You know what? You brought that up the other night, and I'm actually, after I finish the show, I'm picking up Tristan Jarry in my fantasy league. I think that Jarry's been great too. Now, I haven't watched any game that he's played. I really haven't watched much of Pittsburgh this year, so I can't tell you if he deserves the Vezina, because for all I know, they're playing great hockey. But I gotta say, with all of the injuries that Pittsburgh have had, Crosby's the best player in the world. Schultz, Dumoulin, Hornquist. You think it's bad in Montreal? It's much worse in Pittsburgh. They are riddled. So the fact that they are that riddled with injuries, and Jarry, he's putting shutouts after shutouts, good. Good for him. You might have a point, Joe. Oops, sorry. I hit that by accident. You might have a point. Fleury agrees. You might have a point, but I will say the year is still relatively early. There's still a lot of hockey left to be played. He's going to have to maintain this if he wants to win. Where was I? Nolan Vickers. Nolan, how are you, buddy? He says, what do you think about Galchenyuk being on the Penguins trade block? It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm going to show you guys. I was on Twitter. I was trying to find that Shea Weber video, because I know that the Canadiens, they posted a video about Shea Weber. So I'm looking for the Canadiens Twitter, and I wrote Montreal Canadiens. All right? I write Montreal Canadiens, and where did I go? I went here. I see this. Canadiens Montreal. Obviously, it's a fake. There's no blue check mark. There's no blue check mark, but I was going fast. I failed to notice it was a fake. And I see this. The Montreal Canadiens have acquired Alex Galchenyuk from the Pittsburgh Penguins for Mark Riley. Details, and he has a link. You follow the link, and it sends you to a page, and it's saying, is it possible to fracture your penis? Although it is rare, penis fractures can occur when there is trauma to an erect penis. Well, that sounds fun. So that was just a quick story. All of that to say, when you're on Twitter getting some news, make sure that it's actually the Canadiens page. Make sure the page is verified and everything's legit. Because for an instance there, I actually thought that we traded Mike Riley for Galchenyuk. Now, it's not true, but you were talking about Galchenyuk. Hey, it popped up in my mind. As for your question, man, he's just, I don't know if you caught when I was talking about Galchenyuk earlier in this podcast. You can rewind it once I'm done, but Galchenyuk's just one of those players who didn't pan out. At this point, to give my quick answer, if it didn't work with Montreal, and sure, he got a little bit of the short end of the stick, Michel Therrien and everything. If it hasn't worked in Montreal, if it hasn't worked in Arizona and it's not working in Pittsburgh, it's going to take me a lot of convincing to say that it's going to work out on the fourth team. It's not impossible. The odds aren't in his favor, though. Oh, Shazam, I forgot to say about for the Canadiens. For my Selke Trophy winner on the Canadiens, without a doubt, Phil Deneau. Phil Deneau is becoming my favorite player on the Canadiens. No joke. No joke. Now, it's sort of like the Weber situation that even if he's playing unreal, and even if he's playing his best hockey, it's sort of hard for him to get at least nominated for the Selke because there's just so many players ahead of him. Like, for me, Couturier, he's a little bit better than Deneau. Bergeron, he's a little bit better than Deneau. There's a lot of players that are a little bit better, so I don't know if we'll ever see him get nominated. I will tell you something. To get nominated, you have to get a ridiculous amount of points in addition to playing the defense. Like, his defense not the problem here. He's playing great defense. Okay? He just has to have a little bit more of an offensive output, and I think that we will see him in the future nominated for the Selke. And look, 53 points last year. Not bad. This year, he has 23 points in 30 games. Not bad either. But in the league nowadays, the people that are nominated, they usually put up ridiculous numbers. Like, look at Kopitar, the numbers he put up when he won. Bergeron, anyway. Joe says, Deneau, for me, I think he's capable of winning the Selke. In my eyes, he's a top contender for the award. I don't think he gets the credit. And I will give you that. He does not get the credit. He does not get the credit. I love Phil Deneau. You saw that pass he made yesterday to Brendan Gallagher? What a pass. And just his defense. You know, some people, they might see Drouin do a nice deke. Or they might see a player do a deke and score a highlight reel goal. And they're like, wow. For me, when I see a player do a nice defensive play, such as Phil Deneau, that's when I go, wow. I love Philip Denache. Max Cossi says, weirdly enough, I would take Galchenyuk back on the Habs at a cheap price. Oof. It would have to be a really cheap price, first of all. Like, as the fake channel said, Galchenyuk for Mike Riley, sure. I mean, I would take a flyer on that. I don't think they would do it because how often do you see a player traded out of Montreal or traded out of a certain team and they come back to it? It's not really common. Like the example of James Van Riemsdyk comes to my head, but it's not that common of a thing. So Nolan Vickers says, congrats on 1K subs, by the way. Thank you, buddy. Couldn't have done it without you. Hopefully I'll continue growing, but thank you. I couldn't have done it without people like you, Nolan. And people like Joe and people like Max and people like Dave Arthur, who wasn't here today, Jordan, Shazam, all of you, in case you didn't realize I'm closing it out because I need a poo. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. This was episode 4 of the Habsnation podcast. If you like this, please subscribe. Please like the video. One thing I want to do for this channel is be able to take calls. So far, is that the word? Technological wise, I'm not yet there yet. It's going to be there soon. I will let you know when, but soon. In addition to having the live chat, I'll be able to take calls. So that's one thing in the future. But as for now, I appreciate for you guys commenting those great questions. You know, really good questions. Do we have the best fan base or do we have the best fan base? Anyway, thank you for those questions. Let's continue to grow and let's just cross our fingers for the Canadiens. Let's hope that whatever holds them in the future, it's going to be great. So thank you all of you. My name is Matt. Keep your stick on the ice.